As we all know, in reality, sex sells. So I'm going to talk about a subject that I'm passionate about. Hold on to your hats. This is going to be a good one. I came across this picture this week and I just love the simplicity of it. It says so much, doesn't it? Dogs are so versatile. It's amazing how dogs will fit in if you give them structure and leadership, and yet they'll take over if you pamper them and give them non-stop attention. I see far more people having problems with dogs by giving them non-stop attention and stimulating the mind. Dogs switch off far better than people think. Let me explain. So last night I was watching a program on TV regarding naughty pets, pets that have taken over completely. And I actually wrote on my Facebook page, so many people contact me and say my dog's got bags of energy and can't switch off. Well, I have high drive gun dogs, as you know. They sleep most of the day. Ask the question why. They have learnt that that is part of life. But anyone can suppress drive by long walks and free running with your dogs. But you're actually making them very fit athletes. The biggest problem I see is when people overstimulate their dogs with non-stop attention. They become attention seekers. The dog must adjust to your lifestyle, not you adjust to your dog's lifestyle. And I couldn't say it any plainer than that. But the good thing about it is I got a number of likes from well-established, top-quality dog trainers that I respect. Because what people are feeding people on the internet is a pack of lies. They are saying that dogs can't switch off unless you give them attention. The more attention you give your dog, the more attention that dog will want and expect. This is why we have these problems where you can't take dogs to vets, the dog can't leave the home, the fear factor, the opposite where dogs are pulling non-stop on the leads when people take them out because the dog's taken over. There's more pet problems than working dog problems. And yet I deal with working dogs, but I see both sides of the coin. On average, I get probably 10 people with non-gun dogs contacting me with pet dogs that have taken over, and they've gone down the positive only route and been totally misguided, sold an ideology that's not working, cost them a lot of money, and they've even gone down the pet vet route, medication and advice from the vets how to train dogs. Vets shouldn't be training dogs. Let me explain why. One of our Patreon members, and I will withhold their name, spoke to me this week regarding the vets and their dog. A few months ago, could be 6 months ago, the dog had an accident out in the field and was taken to the vets, and there was some bruising on the tail, and the vet was poking around the dog, and the dog yelped and didn't like because the vet touched the area that was bruised. So to cut a long story short, that dog got a fear factor of being in the vets, and the dog had to stay in the vets and be examined without the owner. Now, the owner didn't see what happened to the dog in the vets. Only the vets see what happens to the dog in the vet, so no one can make any accusations there. But now the owner has got it on his records that this dog mustn't be examined unless it's got a muzzle on. And he was quite surprised because the dog shows reaction when it gets to the vet's door, knowing it's going into the vet's. Dogs aren't stupid. But if a vet can't handle a dog without a muzzle on an examination table, then they shouldn't be telling us how to train dogs, should they? You'd think that would be their specialist subject, wouldn't it? How to put a dog onto a table without frightening the shit out of it. A healthy spaniel should, or a Labrador, any gun dog, they're not bred for aggression. I'm not talking about aggressive breeds. I'm talking about a simple working dog. If a working dog cuts itself out in the field, I could actually stitch that dog up or glue that dog up, and that dog wouldn't bite me because that dog is not bred that way. And yet a vet has to muzzle the dog and leave it on record it needs to be muzzled. Doesn't that tell you so much about vets? Don't come into my world telling me how to train dogs when you can't even examine a dog without a muzzle. So it's my job to explain how to get over that problem, how to use the muzzle as a preventative item for the vet because they're now fearful of the dog, but how to make that dog see it as a positive. And yes, we're going to use food in that situation to motivate that dog to put that muzzle on. Once the dog can put the muzzle on before it even gets into the vet, you're not going to get a problem. And so you're doing the job for the vet, and yet the vet should have the experience to be able to handle dogs. Zach George is a fine example of this. He's promoting veterinarians as specialists in dog training and psychology, when in fact they have very little understanding and the amount of actual training they do is very limited. I would suggest that vets would be the last people I would go to for dog behavioural problems. They are not specialists in that area, but it's another money-making scheme for them. So how do they suppress unwanted behaviours? Exactly, they suppress it with medication. They drug the dog out on medication. That is not resolving the problem. That is like putting the muzzle on the dog. The dog has got to learn to be examined without a muzzle if it's a well-trained dog. As simple as that. This is a fine example of one of our members of Patreon who is a affiliated trainer now because of the standard of his training. He's been moved up to help other people in the group. Look at this picture, simple picture, 2 dogs sitting there off the lead. If you think you've got a trained gun dog and you go to a shoot and you've got to keep it on a lead, it is not a trained gun dog. As simple as that. The same as muzzling a dog. If you've got to muzzle the dog, it's for prevention in case things go wrong. That is not a trained dog. It's as simple as that. We don't beat around the bush. We say it the way it is. Unfortunately, people don't like the truth. The truth bothers them. You should be able to sit your dogs in that position on a shoot with birds dropping around in front of the dogs, and no dog should go until told. If you're having to keep a lead on your dog and you think you've got a trained gun dog, I can tell you you're wasting your time. It's exactly the same as if you go on a shoot with your dog looking for birds with a gun, rough shooting, or a walked up or an organised day, and your dog doesn't stop on the flush, you're going to create a monster. As simple as that. You have to train the dogs for what you want them to do. And I'm telling you that vets are not behaviourists, they're not trainers, and they should stick to what they know. Very little about dog training.